Well, this is just 50 subscribers. Probably more than 50 by the time this video actually goes up. Just thank you. Thank you all so much. I'm still in awe that I've managed to get this far, to be perfectly honest. Well, I guess there's only one thing to do now, and that's to celebrate with a video special. So, most VTubers, especially indies, tend to make videos or other such tutorials on how to be a VTuber, right? How to get started, the best resources, programs, where to find pre-made models and assets, etc. Now, I could do that, but I think I have a better idea that can kill multiple birds with one stone. So, welcome to How I Became a VTuber, wherein I'll explain how I became a VTuber. No shit, Sherlock. You see, it's taken me about 5 years of active work, Jesus Christ, to get where I am today, and unsurprisingly, I've learned a lot in that time. In that vein, I hope that by sharing my story, I can offer a form of guidance for other hopeful VTubers on how to navigate this admittedly complicated niche of online entertainment. I also think that my fans might appreciate a sort of backstage glance at the inner machinations of my mind. And of course, I wanted to give you guys something special for giving me the wonderful gift of 50 whole subscribers. I still can't believe I managed to get to this point. Before we go any deeper, I think I should establish why I chose to become a VTuber at all. You see, like many of my fellow Zillennials to Zoomers, I've always wanted to become an online entertainer, to give myself a creative outlet and, what the hell, maybe even make a few bucks on the side. Look, everyone wants to be compensated for their time and effort, especially in creative fields. You pour hours of your life into something and get jack shit for it and see how you like it. But, being a good little student, I focused on my studies and figured I'd start making videos at the tail end of college or during my starter job, you know? Then the Earth decided to cosplay Resident Evil for 2 whole damn years and it sucked. Yeah. The isolation of the lockdown sent me into a literal depressive episode, and I was kinda stun-locked. You'd think, now more than ever, I needed to start that project, right? To escape the boredom and isolation at the very least. Well, there was a reason why I'd been putting it off for so long, and no, it wasn't just to focus on my studies. I could have done both of those things at the same time, trust me. The truth is, I'm very shy and socially awkward. Like, I hate talking unless I have to, or I'm with people that I know. And I'm especially camera shy. I hate taking pictures, and trying to keep eye contact with a camera was not happening. As you can probably tell by my eye tracking alone, that shit goes all over the goddamn place. Plus, seeing as I am a girl and all, if I didn't dress to the nines every time I was on camera, there might be some unpleasantness thrown around, shall we say. Let alone the factor of keeping my room neat and presentable. Like, it's a mess, to be honest. Going the detached voice route was always an option, but it felt exceptionally boring to me, being a mega creative type and all that. So, imagine my delight to see a brand new wave of online entertainer emerge using real-time animated avatars. Yeah, VTubing hit the States in 2020, what goddamn timing. Needless to say, VTubing had many appeals. For one, it provided what I like to call a degree of separation. In the modern age of celebrity and intense individualism, it has become quite common for the art to take a backseat to the artists themselves. The feverish obsession with their personal lives and the dissection of said lives is a proper way to engage with their art and celebrity, and is equal to more traditional forms of analysis. Hell, you could argue that for some individuals, dissection of their personal lives is the point. There isn't even a regard to how that plays out with the art, it's just we care about their individual lives because that's the point. Now, it is true that, in some manner, all art is autobiographical. Whether conscious or subconscious, we all put parts of ourselves into everything that we make, from paintings to furniture to even online videos. But the obsessive desire to know everything about the artist in order to see where they express it in their art is not only excessive, but frankly invasive. Look, I know for at least 80 years now, American culture, at the very least, has been inundated with the idea that success equals fame, that fame equals attention, and that that attention should be obsessive, rabid even, hence why we say a rabid fan base. But, call the introvert crazy here, I think that's wrong, borderline cannibalistic, even. Hence, the ancient tool of the alias. Okay, maybe more a stage name in this context. Artists have often used both of these tools to separate their personal selves from their art, often with the goal of refocusing the attention onto the art itself and its messaging. Or, in the case of stage names en masse, even digital ones, it can make the new persona created a part of the art itself, a focal character to follow and unpack, another artistic expression removed from the self. It once again reorients attention away from the fame and celebrity of the individual back to the part the artist themselves actually cares about. The art. For another, as I mentioned earlier, audiences can be rather picky with the appearances of their entertainers. Not only can that be extremely unpleasant, it's also just plain fucking annoying. In order for me to record any video segment for a standard video or a short vertical video or whatever the hell I'm thinking of doing, I'd have to put on a whole face of makeup, do up my hair, pick out some cute clothes, get dressed, clean up my filming location, or just find one to begin with, perfect the lighting, have above competent equipment to do any of that. It just sounds exhausting, doesn't it? But as a VTuber, all I have to do is make a model, download the right programs, and hit record and start making stuff. Not only does that cut down immensely on time and initial investment of money, it also lets me focus on the actual important stuff. Finally, VTubing offers a form of creative expression hitherto unknown to the arts and entertainment at all. While the ability to craft an entirely fictional persona to inhabit and express oneself through is not inherently new by any means, the technology and innovations that allow for VTubing to exist as it is elevates the concept to levels we still don't have a total understanding of. With VTubers, the sky's the limit on how we can express ourselves. I mean, let's face it, most VTubers are just glorified OCs, right? Well, now, instead of just reams of fan fiction to express your OCs, we have the audio-visual medium of online entertainment to express ourselves. Alright, so I've explained why I chose this medium in particular. Now what? Well, most prospective VTubers would jump straight into the process of creating their persona, designing their character, drafting their lore, creating assets and overlays, then going to OBS and getting started. But I feel like that's a bit hasty. As much fun as it is to skip to the fun part of anything, VTubing, like any form of performing or creating, is a massive time investment. This is something you want to do for years, your whole life even. Going into a potentially lifelong project with no plan whatsoever can be risky at best, disastrous at worst. So, I started to plan. First, I started with a very important question. Why am I doing this? Like, at all? What do I even want to achieve? What are my goals? Well, I had 3 in mind. For one, as I've mentioned earlier, I've always wanted to make a creative outlet, something to let me talk about the things I'm interested in. Second, having a structured activity that can hone my energy in times of boredom or in between other aspects of life would be extremely helpful, seeing as I tend to thrive best when I have a great amount of structure in my life. Fear the woman who plans her own gaming sessions. Finally, I wanted to bring into the world things I would just enjoy watching. It has become very clear that most everything made nowadays, especially in entertainment, is going to be guided by profits and mass appeal first, rather than actual entertainment value or creativity. It's pretty fucking exhausting. Okay, that was depressing. Let's get back to the fun things, right? Speaking of fun things, what do I want to create? What do I want to talk about? In what format do I want to do it in? On what websites or platforms should I host it on? These questions are a little less existential to answer, but probably not by much. What topics do I want to talk about? Video games, pop culture, history, cultural studies, and food. Probably gonna see a lot of food videos on this channel. I'm a glutton. What format or genre of online media do I want to make? Edited videos, namely in the form of presentations and media discussions, like reviews and retrospectives. I think I want to stream in the future too, playing games, talking, and whatnot, but I have to get a computer that isn't a potato first, so we'll see about that. And then, what platforms do I want to use? Personally, I kind of like a low social media lifestyle. That's what I tend to lead, so I have two necessities in that regard. I need a video and stream hoster, and I need a social media page for promotion and engagement. Frankly, I kind of want to make my own website to host my projects, part blog, part video host, that kind of stuff. It seems a little far-fetched, I know, but hey, a woman can dream, am I right? And with that, I think that's the end of the boring part. Yeah, it actually went by quicker than I thought. Yeah, from now on, we are in character creation mode, baby. Before we move on, though, I want to make a quick note. This video won't be delving too deeply into the realms of actually making videos, hosting streams, self-promotion, making uploads, any of that kind of stuff. For one, there are literally hours worth of tutorials and guides on these exact subjects online, so you should probably be looking at those first. For another, I'm still pretty fresh myself, all things considered, so I don't think I can exactly be authoritative here. With that said, let's get on to the origins of my persona. While I didn't have a completely clear vision of what I wanted my VTuber to be from moment one, I definitely had acres worth of ideas to work with. The first thing that I did was a little something I like to call the idea dump. It's exactly what it sounds like. You just dump all of your ideas onto a piece of paper, a digital document, whatever you have lying around. Then, you take all those separate ideas and mix and match them together to see what goes well together, what clashes too hard, what needs more refining, and what needs to be thrown out entirely. This is definitely one of the harder stages of the process, as I had to dump many ideas that I otherwise would have loved to keep, but made my VTuber concept a little too complicated to execute. Did you know I originally wanted to make a hybrid aesthetic between Goth and McBling for this character? Yeah, that had to get cut. For myself, there were definitely some core elements I knew had to stay. A focus on pink as the core color, being a dragon, an association with gems and crystals, namely diamonds, the visual language of McBling and 2000 aesthetics in general, a Frutiger arrow and the like included, and of course my name, which I will actually discuss later as it kinda helps the video flow better. Once I had those core elements in place, it was time to craft my VTuber concept. Now, there are a surplus of videos dedicated to this very subject online, so I won't spend too much time here going into specifics. However, for instructional purposes, I will go into 5 major elements that should be focused on during this step: personality, species, profession, aesthetic, and visual motifs. Let's break those down very quickly. Personality. What is your character's main emotional state? Are they serious, silly, snooty, perhaps psychotic? For all these elements, your goal is to ensure that, just by looking at your design, viewers can instantly understand any of these core traits. You need to make it super easy for people to get your gist just at a glance. Species. This is rather self-explanatory. What kind of creature are you? Something fantastical like a unicorn, or are you just a plain old human? In the event that you have chosen to be a human character, I recommend using this slot instead to specify something more akin to your profession, or like a fantasy RPG job class. Think witches or princesses. Something a lot more descriptive than just saying, I'm a human. Most of us are humans. That's not exactly hard to understand. Profession. What does your character do for a living? Do they even work at all? If your character isn't defined by a job, or you already specified that in the previous step, Describe their main hobby, a talent of theirs, or any other major time sink activities that would go on to define that character. Aesthetic. This one can be a bit more abstract, so listen closely. An aesthetic describes a series of signifiers that identify a particular visual identity. Okay, that was kind of wordy. Let's just list some examples. Barbiecore, cottagecore, pastel goth, etc., etc. You probably already know what an aesthetic is, considering that we're all pretty much children of the digital age, I imagine, but the specification is necessary for instructional purposes. You can also mix different aesthetics for the sake of further distinctiveness. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to mix goth and McBling for this character, but that didn't work out for me. However, don't let that deter you. Sometimes mixing different aesthetics can bring a level of distinction to your character that would be otherwise missing if you just stuck to one. And finally, visual motifs. This can embody a list of different things, from signature shapes to colors, color palettes, and even tools. You can list multiples of these at once, just make sure they're all essential. In my case, I wrote down diamonds and the color pink. For my total concept, I wrote down casual, dragon, historian, McBling, diamonds, and pink. I'd also like to note here that I am explicitly going for a contrasting concept, to appear one way but act a completely different way. I look like your average ditzy beauty queen, but in reality, I'm actually a very laid-back and brilliant historian. When going down this route, try not to bury the lead too hard. I'm ultra guilty of this, as it's kinda hard to get the whole historian vibe from my design alone. Learn from my mistakes, it'll save you in the long run. Anyway, after that, I wrote out my VTuber concept into a healthy paragraph as you can see here. It's easy to forget in the rush, but making a VTuber is, in a lot of ways, very similar to making any other kind of fictional character. As such, I decided to treat my concept like a blurb in a character encyclopedia, a quick way to introduce somebody to me if they're initially unfamiliar. This is also where I started adding in my lore. I recommend not going too crazy on the lore at first. First of all, it's not necessary to go wholesale Tolkien. It's a lot, trust me, I tried. I got lost for like a year doing that. Additionally, your lore can very easily develop over time as you gain new ideas, as you make videos and interact with your fan base, make inside jokes, all that sort of stuff. For your first few points, just focus on your hometown and how your character found themselves in their situation to begin with, i.e. making videos as a VTuber or streaming or whatever you've got going on. And with that, here's my VTuber concept in full right over here. You can pause and read it out if you want to get a quick idea of what this character is supposed to be. With all of that preamble established, it was time to get to the most time-consuming part of this process, collecting inspirations. In other words, making mood boards. A lot of mood boards. Like a heavily concerning amount of mood boards. This is just... There's no good way to give advice for this segment, as it's very much a you find what you like on the internet, on search image sites or whatever, and you just collect them. I really can't give any better directions than that. What I can advise you to do is to make a categorization system, separating inspirations between different areas, like character design, overlays, logos, mascots, splitting your character design into hair and eyes and outfit, all of that sort of stuff. And so, after spending, 3 years! Oh god. Anyway, after 3 years of brainstorming and sketching out every version and idea I could come up with, I had a good idea of what my VTuber would become. But, to be frank, you don't need the whole kit and caboodle starting out. No one ever really does. There are only 2 elements to your VTuber that need to be set in stone the moment you first hit that record button. Those being your name and your design. Unsurprisingly, your name is pretty important, given that it'll be the linchpin of your branding and online identity. I more or less knew my name from day one. or at the very least, my nickname, which was a combination of an old username and an old My Little Pony OC. True story, by the way. But DJ isn't a very good name on its own. First of all, it's absolute ass for SEO purposes. All you get is results for disc jockeys and otherwise musical-related things. Furthermore, on that point, people would probably assume I'm more musical or connected to music than I really am. Trust me when I say, this girl can't hold a note to save her life. And finally, it really doesn't tell anything about me. That's common with most real names in real life, but we're making a fictional character here, and as the old saying goes, fiction has to make sense because reality often doesn't. To flesh out my name, I started with the hardest letter, that being the J. After some back and forth, I ended up settling on Jewel. As you probably saw earlier, part of my lore is being able to form crystals at will, alongside the ability to hunt down precious gemstones with my draconic sixth sense. In addition, Jewel sounded rather perfect for a fashion line, which was fitting given that in-universe all of my characters' clothes are created by my older sister's fashion line. You can see the Jewel branding on the new shirt. So that was the last name settled. The first name actually kind of came first, and it came all at once. So I was searching on name websites, as you do, when I stumbled on Diantha. For one, it was regal and elegant, fitting for a diva-like character, and for another, it sounds a lot like Diamond, my signature item. Diantha, Diamond, it all just kinda clicked. And now, onto my design. Oh, my design. Frankly, both this model and my 1.0 aren't even the first iterations of this character. I've gone through at least 5 major redesigns that I can remember, none of which I have to show you because perfectionism. Between nailing an art style, which is kind of hard given I'm not exactly a serious artist type, and choosing an outfit, a nightmare when your core aesthetic is a detailed and sprawling fashion aesthetic, deciding was, to put it mildly, a nightmare. So, let's detail this between the two halves of this character, the core design and the outfit she would wear. For my core design, I took the philosophy of my avatar being something akin to a fashion doll. In other words, I wanted it to be a solid base design that could be dressed up and styled in any way I saw fit. With that idea in mind, my head instantly drifted to Bratz dolls, which are, as you all know, a pretty certified symbol of the 2000s. Needless to say, that comes with fancy hair, lots of makeup, and very bright colors. DJ has a model's build, so to speak, if we're talking about body proportions, with long wavy pink hair, Minecraft diamond blue eyes, and a beauty mark to match. I also added freckles, because they're cute. You probably can't see them due to the zoom out. I'll probably make them more noticeable in the next iteration. To top it all off, of course, I have some assorted piercings. There's one on my eyebrow. You can't see it thanks to the new hair, but you can see it in my old design. And there's one on my tummy, but you also can't see that because of the desk. And then finally painted nails, which you also can't see right now because I don't have leap motion to move my hands, and let's just say that's expensive, so don't expect it anytime soon. Moving on to the outfit, I had a few details that I knew I wanted to keep consistent between different iterations. That being the choker on my neck with the large silver diamond pendant, and the silver hoop earrings that would match them. Signature items can help keep a design consistent even between different outfits. And it's also true to real-life fashionistas. Most people have a signature item, so to speak, in their wardrobe. As for the rest of the outfits, that took a little bit longer. One thing I realized during this step was that the casual part of my characterization was failing to come across. It was getting lost in all of the different things. So I sat and I thought about it. What is something that is both very casual and comfortable, and yet unmistakably of McBling and the 2000s? The answer to that question was, obviously, for me, a Juicy Couture-inspired tracksuit. I don't think I need to explain why that's a good option for a comfy 2000s fit. If you lived through that era, you probably remember. I also added the jewel text, again, to tie into that sister's fashion line idea, and I topped the design off with some comfy UGG-inspired slippers, which you will see more clearly in the model showcase at the end of this video. Trust me when I say I could have spent literal years going through different outfits. In some respects, I kinda did already. Hell, I couldn't even put all of the different ideas I had for this design onto the model proper, due to the limitations of both the program I was using and my limitations itself with 3D modeling, period. I'm not nearly as good as this as I would like to believe I am. But, as the old saying goes, perfection is the enemy of getting things actually done. Or something like that. And that's exactly what I did. I just got started. After my name and design was settled, I made a model that could get me going, created any other essential assets like banners and profile pictures, made my accounts, and I started uploading. I know with VTubing there's been a rather large emphasis placed onto presentation, on having the prettiest model with the most features, and especially on having a big flashy introduction to the community, that being the debut stream. But, if we're gonna be honest here, and I tend to be honest, it's not necessary, like, at all. You can just start uploading stuff. After all, you can have the best visuals, the best model, best everything. But if you're as entertaining as a wet paper towel, you're not really gonna get very far. Just get a model that can work, honestly. It could be a stick figure PNG tuber model, a low poly PS1 style model slapped together in Blender. It could be any number of pre-made models that are all over the damn place at this point. As long as it works and represents you enough to be distinctive from the crowd, it's getting the job done. Before I finish up, I do want to let you all know that this won't be the end of my tutorialing, shall we say. Is that a word? That's a word. I'm going to use that as a word. I plan on making multiple tutorials on individual aspects of the VTuber process, largely aimed towards individuals with both low funds and low artistic skill sets. Things like how to make a basic beginner model, simple overlays and channel assets, more in-depth looks at character design and how to name your character, so on and so forth. It'll be probably a pretty lengthy project considering how many working elements there are behind a VTuber persona, so I wouldn't expect them to be a regular occurrence. They'll probably come between regular uploads and projects and the like. With that all said, I'd like to once again thank everyone here for giving me 50 subscribers, probably once again more than 50 subscribers by the time this video goes up, and hopefully many, many more in the future. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Alright, here's the little off-scripted part. Here's the new model, the new reference sheet, a little showcase for you. You can see all the new little details that have been added on. This image should be available for you to peruse and download at your leisure on my Reddit page or wherever I will host images in the future. And then here is the end card, link to my channel at the top, a video as well for you to continue watching, and yeah, that's it. I'm out of here.